The Dice Tower is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. This episode is sponsored by the Op, also known as USAopoly.
The Dice Tower, episode 741, Sail Away.
Welcome to The Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them.
In today's show, we're going to do the game chat thing, but we also have a Tap That App segment, and we'll be revisiting a great year in games, 2016, in today's Game Pie. I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
And I'm Mandi Hutchinson. Sail away, sail away, sail away. Sorry, I had to do it.
I knew it. I kind of rigged it that way, Mandi. I knew.
You know me so well, so well.
Gotta love some good Enya action. There you go. Welcome back, everybody. Woo! Well, if you have not listened to last episode with Tom and Eric, then you have missed the major announcement that the podcast will be ending at 750. So after 750 episodes of the Dice Tower podcast, you know, I think Tom is very much on a let's go out on a high note thing. I'm going to be real honest with you folks. I have not listened to last episode yet. I'm not quite ready to do so, like just emotionally. But so I haven't heard exactly what Tom and Eric talked about in that one yet. But, you know, of course, we knew it was coming and we knew ahead of time and all that other stuff. And we've been getting so many nice messages from all of you, like just the wave of messages and emails and DMs and social media posts have been kind of overwhelming in a way, in a good way. Mandi, I don't know how you're feeling, but like just a lot, right?
It is. And like, I mean, we just had a conversation as to how long we've been doing this. And if you've started listening from the beginning to now, there have definitely been some changes. We've had some ups, we've had some downs, we've had great times. People who've just started listening, like, I've just discovered you, you know, and it's always nice to hear that. And definitely, I mean, with you, like, I'm taking it all in. So just so we see your messages, we see your emails. It's overwhelming a little bit in a good way, but, you know, trying to kind of deal with the emotion because we get connected to this and we're excited to talk about games and share it.
I love this podcast. And, you know, Mandi, you and I are talking about what we personally want to do next. Right. And I don't think we've quite decided, but we're definitely going to be doing something. And,
for sure.
Or multiple somethings. So we'll be talking to you all about that in the future as we kind of settle on plans. For sure, but thank you everybody for your phenomenal support. You know, Mandi, when you and I were looking back, we realized that we've been on the podcast regularly since about episode 519, which means when this show comes to an end, we've been doing the podcast for approximately 1/3 of its run, which is weird context because I think people kind of lose that context over time, right? And I know I lost the context, I should say. And wow, that's amazing to be part of such a I don't even know what to call it, but just this thing for so long. And I mean, I'll definitely miss it.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
That's why we're gonna, Mandi, you and I can't leave you, Mandi. I can't let you can't leave me. I'm never gonna let you go.
No, you can't get rid of me that easily.
So thanks everybody. Stay tuned. We'll keep you posted on, you know, our personal plans. I know Tom and Eric have their plans as well, and we'll go from there. But Mandi, I missed you at PAX Unplugged.
I know,
it was great. I know, and it's so funny because at PAX Unplugged, I was there. I didn't make a big deal out of attending because we are in the middle of a pandemic and all this other stuff. But Mandi, people would hear me and they would come up and they would go, Mandi? And then I'd have to gently correct. I got mixed up for you. I think people were just hoping it was you. They were just hoping and wishing that you were there.
And let's be clear, people. There are some people who only know us via voice. They have not potentially seen us. Because I know people who are listening and who have seen us, they're like, really? Because y'all look really different from each other. But there are some people who do not know what we look like. So it does happen. And, you know, we're just so awesome together that people just don't know.
Well, and to be clear, I never take offense at being mistaken for Mandi because
vice versa.
You're fabulous. And I'm like, hey, it's a compliment to be mistaken. But folks, here's a little tip. If you only listen to the podcast and then you're at a convention or something like that and you think you're hearing one of us and you want to say hi, first of all, please do so. It's always phenomenal to meet people who listen to the podcast. But 2, if that person is wearing a cute outfit that's feminine and pretty, or a dress, if they're wearing a dress, that's Mandi.
But wait, Suzanne, I changed my hair. So now
that's true. And if they have colored hair, but now you just have regular hair.
Now from behind, we could potentially. I'm a brunette, everybody. I'm a brunette now. Shocker.
If the person is wearing jeans, it's me. It's Suzanne. That's the big, I heard a voice tip. Anyway, so it was great to see people at PAX Unplugged. Thank you to everybody who introduced yourself. It was really fun. I was there with Restoration Games. Again, I work with Restoration Games, so full disclosure there. But I was helping demo games like Thunder Road and Unmatched, and it was so much fun. Oh my goodness. Little weird, definitely traveling in the middle of a pandemic. I was very sensitive about that.
Right.
You know, fully masked, fully vaccinated, all that other good stuff. But it was good to see people. And you were missed, Mandi.
Oh, I'm sad I couldn't be there. It was great to hear the stories from you. I saw things online. But, with travel restrictions and everything, it just wasn't... it was just going to be complicated.
I heard about,
yeah.
Especially internationally.
Yeah, so hopefully next year.
Yeah, and I got to see Eric briefly, which was really nice.
Yay!
And Crystal.
Yeah, that's nice. I feel like I haven't seen them in forever. So if Eric and Crystal are listening, we miss you.
Exactly. Well, folks, from last episode, as you know, we do episode title polls. So last episode, we did collection roots, which was kind of a weird one. And it definitely showed in the poll results, right? Basically, we were asking, where do most of your games come from? And first of all, I didn't really think about this, but a lot of folks said, hey, I don't know. Like, how do you find out where your publishers are? And to me, I think, Mandi, just because of the way we look at games, sometimes maybe it's just more secondhand to us than a lot of other folks. So apologies on that front, because they're like, I don't know. But ultimately, the poll results showed that actually more than 50% of our collections are coming from Europe. And then about 42% are coming from North America.
Wow.
And then 2.5% from Antarctica.
Oh.
So, there you go. Go figure.
Wow.
None from Australia, which is interesting because we do have folks like Grail Games who are rooted in Australia.
Right.
None from Africa, which we do know that there are publishers in Africa, especially they're really trying to grow. There's this person in Nigeria specifically that's working very, very hard to build up a strong community and publishing center in Africa, in Nigeria specifically. And so hopefully we will see these numbers evolve as time goes on. Absolutely. And then Jay from Cardboard East pointed out that if you look at where most of my games are manufactured, most of them are manufactured in China. Well,
Okay.
Fair enough, Jay. Fair enough. So, yeah, an odd one, but thanks for the people who played along and voted in the poll and commented in the thread.
Yeah.
This episode, we're going back holidays, folks, because that's just the mindset I'm in, so apologies. This time, for Sail Away, for your major holiday or holidays, we're just asking simple. Do you typically travel to see family or friends, or do you stay local? Simple, right? Now, let's just pretend, as I'm sure we all wish we could, that we're not in the middle of a global pandemic. In a normal year, would you typically get on a plane or get on a train to go visit and gather, or would you just stay home? So I don't know, Mandi. We'll see where people are, and whatever major holiday you have, because I know that traditions can be different. And if you feel like you have a tradition that is a little unique, hey, I love to hear about it. It's really, honestly, these poll threads are so much fun to read. So drop your comments in that. As always, we'll post our poll in the Dice Towers Board Game Geek Guild, and I look forward to seeing your votes. All right, Mandi, we've got a ton to talk about today. I know we were cutting a couple things because we had so much to talk about. So we should probably get to the meat of it, huh?
Definitely.
So, what have you been playing lately?
Oh boy, everyone. See, I have some games that I've played this week. So, some exciting times. But before I start, I want to talk to you about Destiny. So, I know I've been talking about it a lot. My friends love this game. They're like, Mandi, we got through all of it. What are we going to do? Come to find out, there is another expansion called Myth and Folklore.
Okay.
But apparently this is, I think, an exclusive for conventions or possibly if you back to the Kickstarter. So I didn't have access to it. So I have ordered it. And I'm saying that now because by next episode, I'll have some updates for you on this expansion. Now, obviously without spoilers, but just wanted to let you know if you haven't started Destinies from Lucky Duck Games and you kind of like those interactive games where you're using your phone or using an app to guide you through the game, you might want to give it a try. So stay tuned. All right. Well, the first game on my list is actually one that I think came out in, was it 2012? It's been a while. It might even be before that. Tammany Hall. And I don't know, have you played the original version, Suzanne?
So I played Tammany Hall, like, I think when it first came out.
Yeah.
And then I haven't played it since. So.
Okay, fair enough. I have not played it. I have to be honest. I looked at it and went, this doesn't look like a game I'm going to like. It looks politicky and that's not my jam. But we'll see if I change my mind just after playing. So Tammany Hall is designed by Doug Eckhart. Art is by Peter Dennis, and the version that I have is published by Pandasaurus Games. Plays 3 to 5 players in about 90 minutes, and it retails for about $50 Canadian. So, as I kind of mentioned before, there's some negotiation in this game, has a political type theme, and territory building. I think the person on the cover is supposed to be Alexander Hamilton. I could be wrong, and if you've seen Hamilton, then you'll know the song I'm referring to. But I do believe that is who is on the cover, or at least referenced, because I think part of the Treasury kind of board. So Tammany Hall, the first description of this is that it is a backstabbing, corruption, temporary alliance, and taking power at all costs type of game. Wow. So if that's up your alley, they say, this is the game for you. I'm going to be very honest with you. I didn't really feel that, but maybe I just played with really nice people. So who knows? You're trying to kind of, rule over certain parts of the city. Okay. And ideally, trying to get certain areas on the board is great if you can kind of lead that, because there's going to be a point in the game where we have, I don't remember the exact terminology, but it's like a voting period or something that happens, which allows the person who's leading in those territories to assign people roles, like a counselor or a governor and that sort of thing. And some of these roles are great. Some of them just give you, hey, you just get points. Some of them give you special abilities that you can use in the game, which allow you to kind of add more things to the board to allow you to potentially take over certain spots of the board. And it's a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be, because I think it only happens over kind of a few rounds. Like you do play a few turns, and then there's like that voting period where whoever has the most amount of people in certain sections are going to be able to allocate these roles for everybody. And that can kind of change the dynamic of the game. And then it happens 3 times, I believe. And then once you reach the end of that, the game will end. You also have some tokens that are called Slander Tokens. So this allows you to actually, you're going to be that kind of person, slanderous talk, and potentially remove them from an area, giving up that majority. So not going to lie, that was kind of fun. So that's the gist of the game. It sounds pretty straightforward, right? And it is. I didn't find it overly complicated. You only have those few actions in the game of putting one person out or putting 2, putting out a slander token, that sort of thing. Pleasant surprise for me. I did not think I was going to like this game at all. And
I am surprised. I have to admit, I'm surprised that you like this game. But this is cool. I want to hear more.
Now, to be fair, I played with my friends. We are not... There are some people who will go deep. Yes, I'm going to backstab and do all the things. But I don't think we were playing it's okay, you're going to do that. No, I won't go there. We were playing in a good way, where we were trying to get those majorities. And definitely you could see certain people leading certain areas and then us having to come in and be like, no, we can't be having that in the game, But it wasn't, some games make you feel horrible. When you do something and you're just like, oh gosh,
they're punishing, yeah.
I didn't feel that. I still feel like there were ways, especially when you got these roles that were allocated to you, that could help kind of balance out, kind of making you come back. If you weren't leading, this role that you had might be able to help you do that. Now, obviously, the person handing out these roles doesn't want you to win, so they may give you one they think might hinder you, but hey, you can make it work for you. So I surprisingly enjoyed it. I like the fact that it wasn't super long. If this game had been any longer, it's one of those I would have been like, yeah, I'm good. We understand how it works. We don't need to see it 20 more times. And I think that was really nice that it kind of was not super short, but it had a small amount of time and allowed us to kind of see the mechanics. We understand it. We did what we had to do. Great. I'm comfortable with these decisions. Let's move on. I enjoyed that. The theme, I mean, not my type of theme. I'm not really into political type games. Negotiation, anything like that is generally not on my sphere of games that I like. Did I find it overly thematic in the sense that I was constantly thinking about it? No. I think I had the Gangs of New York in my head. You know the movie with Daniel Day-Lewis? Sure. That's literally what I had in my head. So sure, if you want to say the theme was strong, that's the movie that I decided to go with, but I kind of applied that to the game in that sense. Is this a game that you need to own? That is the question. This is a tricky one for me. For me, this is not a game that I need to have in my collection. It's one of those games I'm glad I was able to play it because it's a game that's been around for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And this is just, the type of game that it is just not one that I tend to play a lot of. It doesn't mean it's a bad game. I'm not saying that. It's just for me specifically, this is not a game I necessarily need to have in my collection. I don't know if I would play it often. I've played it. I enjoyed it. If someone brought it to the table, I'd be happy to play it. Is it a staple for me? I don't know. But if you do like that political theme, if you do like kind of that area kind of control or, you know, trying to, as they say, backstabby type game, you might enjoy this. And this might be a game, absolutely, that will work for you. Questions about, it's a remade game, right? So it was already in print. Now it's been reprinted. The art is definitely a bit, you know, more vibrant. I do think they were trying to have some more inclusivity in the art and kind of adjust things like that, which I very much appreciate. And I think it's one of those games, like if you were going to buy it, obviously you would want to kind of get the new version. Some people who have the old version may just want a refreshed or updated version. I think some of the tokens have slightly changed, but that's about it. So Tammany Hall, whilst I enjoyed it, and I would definitely play the game again, I don't know if it's a game that I necessarily would need to have in my collection because I have a lot of games and I have to be very specific, but it's definitely not a bad game by any means. So that's Tammany Hall.
I'm glad you liked it. And I think I appreciate what you're saying about if it's something that you need to keep, but the reality is you have so many games, and so many of us do. And I think that you look at somebody like even Tom, right? And I mean, he, you know, one in, one out, and you just can't keep them all. You can't, even if you like it. And I need to really cull down my collection, and I have this massive, like Mandy, I have 20 moving boxes full of games right now that I need to figure out a way to cull. These are good games. They're games I like. If I had, if I was a gabillionaire and had a massive space, I would keep them, but that's just not practical. So I get that, and I'm glad you liked it. It makes me want to give it another try.
There you go.
Now that I've evolved as a gamer over the last 10 years or whatever.
Absolutely.
First up for me, LAMA Dice. LAMA Dice. Okay, so yeah, this is the dice version of the very, very popular award-winning game by Reiner Knizia, LAMA. LAMA came out, and then there's LAMA Party, and now there's also LAMA Dice.
LAMA Party?
So much llama, right? Also designed by Reiner Knizia, and the art is by Ray Sommerkamp and Barbara Spelger, and it's published by Migo. So this is just one of those small box games. Honestly, I imported it from Germany, so the price I paid versus what you would actually pay is very different, right? It's just one of the small boxes, though. So if you've played LAMA, really, LAMA is a very simple card game in which you're playing cards that equal or greater than what's already in the discard pile, and you will take point chips. Points are bad at the end of the round if you still have cards in your hand, and there's a way that you can get rid of these chips if you play correctly. Great. And it's fun. I like LAMA. So here's LAMA Dice. So LAMA Dice has mini cards, and then 3 custom dice that have, numbers on them, and then a couple of sides will have LAMA. And then it also has the chips, which are really central to the whole concept of LAMA. Cool. So you're going to lay out a row of cards in the central market. Market's not the right word, but central row. And then you're going to get a hand of these little cards, and they're going to be face up in front of you. On your turn, you're going to roll these 3 custom dice, and if a die comes up and it matches one of the cards you have in front of you, you get to discard that card. Huzzah! If you roll 3 llamas, you can discard a point token.
Ooh.
Which is, if anybody's played LAMA, that's absolutely critical because points are bad. If you do not have a match to one of your cards, then you must take one of the cards from the central row that matches the die face. And if there are no matches, to your cards or to the cards in the central row, that's the end of the round. You as a player take all of the cards in the central row, and then you score the round. And the game ends when a single player hits 40 negative points. Now, of course, you also have the option of quit. So basically, LAMA Dice is LAMA with push your luck. If that sounds like your thing, then it's probably worth checking out. For me, I really can't imagine a scenario where I would want to play LAMA Dice over LAMA. There's just no reason for me to do that. I like LAMA better, and I like other push your luck games better than I like LAMA Dice. Here are the things that hold me back on LAMA Dice. The randomness, like LAMA already has a fair amount of randomness in it, right? It's just one of these chill card games that you play around a table. With these dice, I mean, that no match thing can just kill you. And if you happen to be stuck with, you have no control what's in that center row, right? At that time, you can just be hit with massive points because of a bad roll. And that is it's kind of a feel bad. Now, if you're hanging around and having festive beverages and laughing and joking, maybe it's no big deal. But if you're kind of having a game night, I didn't like that feeling when that happened at all. And even when it didn't happen to me, I felt so bad for the person it did happen to. I was like, oh, that stinks. That's a real bummer. And it really is like, you roll these dice, do they match your cards or not? I mean, I don't know, right? And getting rid of your point tokens, it feels like that you have even less control because you have to roll 3 LAMA. Now, each of the dice have 2 LAMA faces on them. So they do edge the dice. The dice are weighted to try to give you a higher chance of that. But again, it's completely random if you manage to get these 3 LAMA to get rid of those, those big point tokens. So, like I said, there are other push your luck games I like better. And I like LAMA better than I like LAMA Dice. I will also say the mini cards you get are really thick card stock, which sounds like a good thing. They're impossible to shuffle because of the mini card size. So your riffle and then you're pile shuffling, and it's such a small thing, but it's important the cards are randomized for play. And I don't know why this happened. I have other card games from them that don't use this card stock, but it was weird that you have these mini cards with this super thick card stock that make it impossible to shuffle. So just another little nitpick on top of the other things about the game that I didn't enjoy so much. So like I said, if you like LAMA and you love push your luck and you want to see those things combined, hey, check out LAMA Dice. For me, I'm going to pass on this one and just play LAMA or Can't Stop.
Okay. I have LAMA, and I still have not played it. I bought it when we were in Germany, and I haven't played it yet. So, but interested to hear that you talked about LAMA Dice, because I would have just picked that up without playing it. So you're saying the other options? Yeah. Okay.
I think you're good.
All right. All right. Well, up next is a game. I know you're going to be like, deja vu? Tom and Eric did talk about this. And what episode did they talk about this, Suzanne?
I think 732.
732. So if you're thinking I heard it already, that's possibly where you've heard people talking about it. But we're going to do just a quick little chat about it because we wanted to talk about it as well. So
that's right.
Yeah. So Bitoku is designed by Germain P. Milan. Art is by Edu Valls, and it's published by Devere. It's for 1 to 4 players and plays in about 120 minutes. And I guess they consider it a hand management set collection type game. The theme of the game takes a look at spirits in the forest, and you're trying to become like the next big great spirit of the forest. And you're like, how do I do that? Well, we're going to tell you a little bit about how you can do that. So they have the theme of the game, and I don't know exactly, Suzanne, thematically, the culture that like yokai, kodama.
So, yeah, I'm going to, I'll just interject here before you talk about it a little
Please, this
more.
is why I wanted you to talk about it.
So it's clearly pulling from quote-unquote Asian influences, specifically Japanese influences. And they even speak about it a little bit in the rule book. And when you look at the art, if you're familiar with the animated films by Hayao Miyazaki from Studio Ghibli, then there are going to be pieces of imagery in here that are going to feel very familiar or specific in terms of some of the character design and things like that. I would suggest that the designer speaks to how the culture inspires them and they find it fascinating. I will admit my group went through this and we're like, first of all, a lot of this is just very Miyazaki, like very Miyazaki. Like there's something anyway. And we personally found we actually talked about for a little bit that we felt we had a long discussion about appropriation versus appreciation when it came to the setting and the thematics of this game and the specifics and how they were implemented and even how the designer talked about being inspired by a culture, but being very unclear in how they actually engaged with the meaning behind some of this versus kind of the just fantasizing it immediately. It is beautiful. We do think like the art and the illustrations and things like that are beautiful, but there's a lot of mixing of different cultural elements in here and different things that may have cultural meaning to the place that they were borrowed from that is a little mishmashed in here from what I can tell.
Thank you, Suzanne. We appreciate that because I know this is a conversation that we have had. We will talk about it a little bit more when we talk kind of reviewing the game at the end. So in the game, each player has their own board and set of cards that they're going to be using. And we also have a main game board that we're going to be playing off of. And there are a variety of actions which include gaining crystals, which are going to allow you benefits at the beginning of a turn potentially, or when you play a card in a specific spot, again, depending on the type of crystal you get. There are other areas where you're going to be placing dice because you are allowed to have 3 dice and you have to unlock them before you can use them by playing a card to that specific space on your board. That card will have an action that you can do, and you either have a choice of either doing the action on the cards or using the die once it's been unlocked. Ideally, if you're placing a card, you're going to do that, whatever action it says on the board in question. So it could be getting resources or getting crystals, like I mentioned, making buildings, or potentially moving up on a track at the top of the board, which are going to get you points and other benefits. You can also use dice, and dice are going to be things that you're going to place on the board, again, to have movement on that track I mentioned, resources, and then at a later time, you can also take these dice and move them to another spot above them, but it does lower the value of the die. You might be thinking, what does that matter? It matters because you do have to pay attention to pip value for some of your actions. And if you're placing higher numbers, it really can create problems for other players because they have to place that number or higher to be able to take that action. So there are a few things at play there, but these are some of the things that you can do in the game. The game actually is played over seasons. So we have, your fall, spring, winter. I think winter ends up being the last season. And it's not just one kind of turn in there. You have several actions. So I think it ends up being a maximum of, I think you can play up to like 6 to 8 actions or 6 to 8 turns within that round. So depending on how many cards and dice that you have available to you. So
yeah, so this is a massive game. And I don't know if you really said that up front, but like it's a standard game box, right? But it's so heavy. It's so packed full. And honestly, there is so much going on. I mean, Mandy, you barely scratched the surface. There's so many nuances and track movements and card nuance. Like, it's almost impossible to go over properly in a audio review.
It is. I mean, I talked about a track at the top for movement, but we also have one on our board, and you have card. Like, there are just so many things going on. So if you like games with a lot of these things happening, this could be for you. So let's move into talking about the actual game now. Our thoughts on it. I definitely would say I did like the gameplay, but I liked it better after the second play because the first play was obnoxiously long. But we also played at the full player count, which happens, right? It tends to be long, but it's just the rule book had a few things we were questioning. I think I even messaged you at one point because something wasn't clear.
You did. You messaged me for rules clarification. Yep. Scoring and all that other stuff.
Yeah. Like wording and stuff. So like I found that was a bit of an annoyance, I'm going to say, for me, because, it happens in rulebooks. Things are not always 100% clear, but it did happen on more than one occasion. The board is really busy and a lot of green. So if you have challenges with color, you might have some difficulty, I find, potentially navigating the board. There is a slight contrast, so it's not horrible, but it definitely is a lot. Like your eyes don't always know where to look. So that could be problematic, but I do find the way they laid it out isn't bad, if that makes sense. Like actions, if you place a die here, it corresponds to the thing here. If you have to go to the next spot, like it makes sense where it is. So in that respect, I can understand that part of it. But I did enjoy the game. I like the decisions. Like the second play went much faster because,
Sure.
okay, we had the rules down and it was really quick. We weren't thinking as hard on our turns. Wait, that sounded really bad. We weren't thinking as long. Still hard, but not long. But yeah, so overall, I liked the gameplay. But coming back to what you were talking about earlier, I mean, I am not well versed in the Japanese or Asian specifically inspired culture, excuse me. So I'm not one to comment on it, but I did find I wasn't 100% clear. Do you know what I mean? Like if you were looking at something that was inspired by, and you've had some interaction with the community or some kind of, I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, but not just a, hey, this theme is cool and I think it's cool and I'm going to use it. That wasn't clear to me where they stood on that. So
Yeah, I mean, they say it in the rule book. It says, many of the creatures mentioned come from Asian myths. Many of them we just made up.
right.
Which we are, and they say we've tried to approach them with the utmost respect. We are trying to put together a fictional universe for all of us to visit and inspire great games. And I would suggest that the way I view cultural respect and the way that they've reflected this here don't align, but so be it. So here's where I stand on Bitoku. I really like the game. Mm-hmm. It is a massive, massive game. And yeah, that learning, it is
rough.
Brutal.
It's rough.
Brutal. Even to the point like where the way that they label the components, the way that they did that in the component area, I wish they'd done it slightly differently because it makes it harder to figure out the initial game setup before you're familiar with the pieces, the way that it's done there. I would suggest this game may be considered overwrought by many, and I understand why.
Yes.
Like, could this game have been edited down? Do you need 50 things to do? Couldn't you have done with 30 things to do? Right. And honestly, I think that's fair criticism. What I found as I got into it is I liked so many of the pieces individually and trying to pick between them that's what drove my enjoyment of the game. I really like the card play. I really like that card pathing that you do and how you can build up set collection there and whether or not you choose to score it and all this other stuff. I think it's fair to compare this to something like a Vital Lacerda game.
Yes, absolutely.
And what I would say is that if I were to use the word elegant, I think if I were just to compare a typical Vital Lacerda game to Bitoku, Vital's games feel elegant in comparison. Where Vital has a ton to do, there's lots of pieces, there's lots of moving parts, there's lots of different areas that you have to take into consideration. I think Bitoku could have been edited down a little bit.
Yeah.
And I may enjoy it even more. But the reality is I like this clunky, heavy, tons of moving bits. Now, is it going to get to the table very much? I think probably not, because just of where my game groups are in terms of where they want to invest their time. And I think that Bitoku is one of those games that if you take a break from playing it, you are going to have to relearn a lot of it before you can jump right back in because of how complex all the different pieces are.
Yes.
So, I liked Bitoku. It's a beautiful game. I think it doesn't achieve cultural respect, and I think it's pretty appropriative in a way that I don't care for.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know how much this one's going to hit the table. I still have it in my collection. I'm debating it right now.
Yeah.
But, if you like those massive, complex games that have pretty art, it might be worth taking a look at.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you, and I'm also in that contemplative mode. But everyone knows I love Vital games, so I don't, and you do too. Like we don't shy away from heavy games, but we do have to take a look at theme and how things are referenced and portrayed. It's important. It's important for us.
And we have Vital games. How many massive, complex games do you need in your collection? Well, it depends on you, right?
So there you go. So those are our thoughts on Bitoku, and I know Tom and Eric also had some as well, so you can make your decision from that.
In a very different direction from a complexity point of view. Kids Chronicles!
Ooh.
Oh my gosh, Mandy, I have, since Lucky Duck announced that they were creating a sub-brand, Lucky Duck Kids.
Yes.
And they announced that they were going to do a youth-oriented version of their scan and play system, Kids Chronicles, aka Chronicles of Crime, but for kids. Mm-hmm. I was ecstatic because that was always something I love. I know you do too. Yeah. We love Chronicles of Crime. but very not family appropriate for younger children.
Sure,
right?
absolutely.
For any number of reasons. So when they announced Kids Chronicles, I cannot tell you how excited I was. I finally got it and got it to the table. I was going to wait for the weekend, but I couldn't even wait. Like we played it. So this is designed by David Securial, and the art is by Matuz Kamada, Marina Nestorova, and Shannon Tornkaronensri. I'm really sorry. I do not know how to pronounce that name. Published by Lucky Duck Kids, and in the United States, it's going to retail for $25 US. So, like said, this is a youth-oriented game that uses a similar system to Chronicles of Crime. When you open a box, you're just going to have a big double-sided board. There's a winter side and a summer side. There's going to be a small deck of character cards and a deck of item cards. Boom. That's it. You're going to have to download the separate Kids Chronicles app on your mobile device. It's free. And then play through. So the game includes a tutorial and then 5 separate individual game scenarios. We have not played through them all yet, for the record, but I'm assuming the later ones just continue the theme of what we've already experienced. And yeah, so when you open up this game, you're just gonna, the rule book is very short, and the setup is short. Board, 2 decks of cards, go at it. Perfect for children. Hello, no kid wants to sit through a huge amount of setup. Heck, most adults don't want to sit through a huge amount of setup. And then you just get to dive right in. The tutorial's excellent in guiding you through how you're going to use everything. The board is very different than Chronicles of Crime, where you have the different locations, right? So in this game, you're just going to have a board, and it's got different illustrated zones in it. Like there's a swamp zone and a mountain zone and Merlin's castle and the royal castle. And printed on the board near each location is a QR code that you can scan. So when you want to go visit a location, you just scan the code that's printed on the board. And then, yeah, when you go to a location, they have a scene that you can explore, similar to the Chronicles of Crime. Now, these are much simpler scenes where you aren't looking for 50 things. Of course, they're age appropriate. And there's no VR. This is all just in the device that you're using. You're just going to scan it. And to be clear, that's very important because there are studies showing that VR is not good for still developing eyeballs. So you would not want to put an 8-year-old in VR glasses because it's not appropriate for their eyeballs.
Know
so
that.
I appreciate I appreciate that Lucky Duck took that into consideration. So you can we're playing on an iPad, which is nice. So you see the big scene and things like that. So you do that. You explore the scene, you find the objects, you find the people, you get to talk to people. You can ask people about the objects or other people or locations, just like you can in Chronicles of Crime, simply by scanning, a place or a person and then scanning the thing you want to ask them about. Works very, very smoothly. Everything is bright, lovely illustrations, fun, and you go on an adventure. And ultimately, what you're trying to do throughout the games is find these moonstones. Cool. I mean, that's the game. It's very, very straightforward. It's very, very simple. My 9-year-old, he has not been this excited about a game in ever. I can't even remember.
Okay.
Right? We played the tutorial, and the next morning, he comes into my bedroom at like 6 a.m. and is like, "Good morning. Okay, what day is it? Can we play Kids Chronicles?" Like, it's 6 a.m. This kid's asking. I'm like, and then we didn't get to play through the day because we were busy and all that stuff. And then as soon as that kid walked through the door after school, literally, "Hi, Mom, can we play Kids Chronicles?" He never does this with board games.
That's so good.
That's how into it. So my son is 9. He plays a lot of video games, that kind of thing. And I think the app integration actually makes him more engaged in this. He loves exploring the scenes. He loves holding up the cards and scanning them. He got the system right off the bat, and we're having a blast, an absolute blast. I love this. Is everything I wanted, and I think that Lucky Duck nailed it. So, about that age, this is actually the weirdest bit about this game to me so far. And I want to share it, especially for folks out there that are thinking about playing with their kids. So thematically, the story is very light. You're searching for moonstones. You're running into ice witches and Merlin and princes and fairies and talking frogs and all that other stuff. Very appropriate for any age. there is a lot of reading, right? So whenever you go talk to somebody, you're going to get a script and you're going to click through the different things that they say. The story is a little young for my 13-year-old.
Right.
She'll play it, but it's not engaging her, right? It's a little youthful for her.
Right.
My 9-year-old digs the story, but my 9-year-old can read.
Right.
You can play this. Somebody asked me online when I was posting about it, can I play this with my 4-year-old? Yeah. But if your 4-year-old can't read, they have to play it with somebody who can read for them. Mm-hmm. So when you're thinking about age range and who it's appropriate for, obviously you're going to know your children best. Decide on there. But it does require a lot of reading. It's all very age appropriate. And thematically, it does skew younger. So this isn't a teenage-oriented version of the game.
Right.
It's a child-oriented version of the game. That said, that's what I wanted. Hits the mark. I don't have many complaints. Like, small things. Like in the app, when it says, oh, you've got this item, it doesn't put the item cards are numbered, which would make them easier to find. It doesn't put the number in the screen, which would make it easier to find in the deck.
Yeah.
Who cares? My kid likes shuffling through the cards anyway.
Right.
I don't know. Like, it's a little awkward if you're using an iPad to scan the board because you're not going to pick up the board and hold it up like we hold the cards up to the scanner, the camera instead. I mean, those are the nittiest of nitpicks possible, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's awesome. So if you have children and you think they'd like this type of game and you can engage and you don't mind putting an app in front of them, I don't know. Kids Chronicles is amazing. I want more because we're going to burn through the rest of these cases and I'm going to be hearing about it for months now. When are they doing more Kids Chronicles? When are they going to do more Kids Chronicles? So, Lucky Duck, get on it. I need more.
What a terrible thing to have. Let's play more games.
Exactly. So that's Kids Chronicles.
Exciting. I have it. I need to play it too, so I'm glad to hear it was good. Well, I don't have a last kind of game, but I wanted to kind of do some shout outs here to some games I had played recently with some friends. And I'm like, I haven't played these for a while. And Anomia was a big hit.
Oh, I love Anomia. Oh, so much.
So, and I'm like, wow, I haven't played this game in a really long time. And for those who haven't played it, it's like you have like a brain freeze, like you're thinking of something and you can't get it out. Like that is this game, and it is so fun. And Dungeon Draft made it to the table, which we've talked about on the podcast. If you haven't tried it, ignore the way the box looks, just play the game. It's really good. Azul Stained Glass of Sintra, I have to tell you, not my favorite of the series.
Yeah, me neither.
And I played it with friends, and I thought maybe it's just me because I play a lot of games, and they don't necessarily play as many. They also said they preferred the first one and Summer Pavilion. So
yep, that's where I fall.
Don't know. So I thought it was just me, maybe not. So maybe people have other ideas. And last but not least, Deep Sea Adventure, which is a classic. So good. And I know I paid a lot of money for this game when it first came out, thanks to Suzanne, because it was not available at the time in Canada. So, but can I tell you, worth every penny of the $40 that I paid for it. So, but also to know, and we'll talk about this on another show, Deep Sea Adventure has come to Nintendo Switch. So
thank you for bringing that up. In fact, more than Deep Sea Adventure, right?
Ooh, do tell.
I'm so excited because Oink Games has officially released their app version. Now, they kickstarted this a while ago, and we talked about it at that point. But now it's out for everybody to download. And it has 4 games in it. Hello. It's got Deep Sea Adventure. It's got Fake Artist Goes to New York.
Yes.
It's got Startups, which Mandy, you and I live streamed to play, right?
Yeah,
and that was
so
super
good.
fun.
Yep.
And it's got Moon Adventure, which is one of their newest games. So 4 games in this one app that you can. So, hey, if you've got a Nintendo Switch, definitely go check it out. I've only just started to touch into it, and it's very polished and very fun, and I can't wait to play more. And Mandy, what we should do is we should get into it and then talk about more on the podcast.
Absolutely. So there you go. And people have been yearning for a Tap That App, but wait, it's not just Deep Sea Adventure and all those fun games from Oink Games. We have another one for you in a new Tap That App segment. Brought to you by the Op Games, also known as USAopoly. If you're looking for something that is fun for the whole family and can also be played virtually, then the Blank Slate board game is your best bet. Blank Slate is the clever party game where you try to predict what others are thinking. For ages 8 and up, 3 or more players, and is available for pickup at your favorite toy or game shop or online. Exclusive for Dice Tower listeners, 10% off your entire purchase at theop.games. Use promo code DICETOWER. This is available for all games, puzzles, and accessories for U.S. residents only.
And now let's look at the digital side of board gaming with Tap That App.
Wow, it has been a hot minute since we have done Tap That App, and I'm so excited for it. So
yeah, I mean, we've talked about apps a little bit. We just haven't like called them out separately, but that's okay.
Yeah, but today, well, we're doing that. We're calling them out and saying, "Hey-o, let's talk about it." So today, we're going to be discussing the app Concordia. This is exciting, everybody, because I own the game and have never played the physical game, yet I have played the app.
I mean, I think that's fine, Mandy. We all have, I mean, many of us that are either speaking on or listening to this podcast right now have a few games on their shelves that they haven't gotten to the table.
Is that a foible? Actually, you know what? It probably is not, but I just really wanted to use the word foible. Okay, continue.
Okay.
I'm so random today.
Anyway, hey, Concordia, designed by Mac Gertz. I mean, Concordia is massive in the hobby game market, right? People just love it. The app version is from Acrim Digital, and one of the things I really like about Acrim is that they tend to release on a lot of platforms. So you can get Concordia on Steam, iOS, Android, or Switch. Now, your purchases would have to be separate. So if you want it on Steam or on iOS, you're going to have to buy it separately. But the nice thing is that you can play cross-platform. So if Mandy wants to play on her Switch and I want to play on Steam, we can play against each other. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. For those of you unfamiliar with Concordia, this is a game that uses card play and kind of a map management to gain victory points. I know, shocking for a Euro game, but really a lot of Concordia is in these cards, right? So you're going to get a hand of basic cards, and each card does a different action, whether it's putting troops out on the board or moving them around or, triggering resource collection, all those kinds of things. As you play those cards, it's going to go into discard, and then one of the cards lets you pull those cards back. So that's how you refresh your hand. So managing your hand is a massive part of Concordia, and personally, the thing I really like about it. And of course, part of it too is buying new cards from the market that is available so that you can, buy new cards, and then that changes when you want to recall cards and all that stuff. There are set collection elements. There are majority elements. Oh, there's so much going on in Concordia, and Concordia has a ton of expansions as well at this point. So, and hello, yes, expansions are incorporated into the app version as well that you can toggle on and off, which is a nice feature. So that's just a very high level of Concordia. We're here to talk about the app version. So Mandy, I know you've dug into it. I mean, Acrim tends to be a shop that really does full-featured apps, right? So there's tutorial, there's online play, there's solo play against an AI. We mentioned the expansion options in here. I'm assuming, Mandy, you've just been digging into the solo play.
Yeah, so usually, I think I've mentioned before, usually when I play apps, I usually play them solo, like against an AI or something along those lines. And so in this... to test this out, I did play. Yes, I played on easy. Don't at me. And I played with two AIs just to see, because I had not played the game before. So I did the tutorial, and I have to tell you, it started off really well. There were a couple times it wasn't a little clear, should I click here? Or like if I clicked somewhere, it would just say, like, you can't do this until you do this. But then I wasn't 100% sure how to do the thing it was asking me to do. So, and for someone who, like myself, who has not played the game, I was the perfect person to try that. And I do find sometimes that wasn't always clear. And then I got to the point where I couldn't go any further into the tutorial. Like, it just was telling me to click something, and I'm clicking it, and it wasn't working. So I don't know if it's something that I was doing, but in either case, it just wasn't clear for me how to continue. And I tried it, I think, 3 times. I think I said twice. No, 3 times I tried it. And then I said, okay, you know what? I'm just going to play the game with what I have and go from there. And it did work out in a way that it still kind of was prompting me as I was playing a bit. So I figured it out as I went and managed to win the game. So I played it on Steam. I think that's where I had my first play. So I definitely had a bigger screen to see everything. And I found it pretty clear, like things were moving. You could see how it moved and focused in. Resources required, cards popped up on the screen with descriptions if you needed. So all of those things were really good. Playing against the AIs, I played on easy, but it wasn't like obnoxiously easy. I mean, they still gave me a little bit of run for my money. So I did feel the level was appropriate to what I had chosen. My only issue was that I had some issues. The tutorial was a bit of a problem for me.
Which is important in a game because you can't assume that people know how to play. And I have played Concordia a number of times, and it did take me a little bit of adjustment to switch from kind of, knowing what the board looked like to the compromises that you always have to make in an app version of a game because of the screen real estate. And I've talked about this extensively in my app reviews over time. But you only have so much space to work in. So there are things that you inherently have to kind of hide off screen that you can push a button and have a tray swing out. And that's very much the case in Concordia. They have a abbreviated area where you can see kind of the high-level overview of people's statistics in terms of resources that they have and things like that. And then the card market is hidden away that you can pull out in a tray. And there are icons that kind of hint at what's in there, but it's taps away. You have to make an action to see what's in there if you want to. And that's an adjustment for me in a game like Concordia that has so much going on and you're used to scanning the board in kind of one quick glance and knowing everything. I think that's definitely a challenge with Concordia for people who know the board game. I also don't think that's necessarily a criticism of Akram's implementation, because what the heck are you going to do? If you were to put everything on the screen at once, it would just be unreadable.
Absolutely.
That's an adjustment I had to make. One other feature that they did is that you have two view options. Like if you scroll in, it gets kind of a 3D angle on it, which is interesting. But then if you scroll out, you get the flat top-down view. Because in my mind, this is a board game, right? I vastly prefer the top-down flat view.
Yes.
To the 3D one.
Me too.
But I also understand that, Mandy, there are going to be people out there that will not have played Concordia. So that 3D view may be more engaging for them to play. So it's nice that it's an option, right? In general, for me, I'm loving the app. And I'm not a Concordia expert. So yes, the AI is challenging enough for me. I think the Akram tends to have very strong AI in games overall.
Yeah, I do agree.
I've played maybe 3-4 games of it now in the app version. I am still adjusting to pulling up the card trays and things like that.
Right.
But I'm getting more used to it as I go, right? Yeah, I think that if you are a Concordia fan, this is a great version. They did a great job. I'm not surprised. Akram has a history of quality. I like the cross-platform. I like the AI. I like that. Mandy, what you and I really need to do is we should play against each other live.
We definitely, now that I know how to play, there's no excuse. And, I won my last match, so I feel confident. We definitely need to play this.
Uh-oh. Now I'm a little scared now. All right. So Concordia, if you like Concordia or if you want to try it for the first time, take what Mandy said into account about the tutorial, but I think it's a very strong implementation, and I'm looking forward to trying the expansions.
Yes, me too. Absolutely.
Order up!
And now, it's time to order up a slice of game pie.
Oh, everybody. It is a delicious piece of pie this week. Oh my goodness. I even have to because it's so good. Games from 2016. And you can't see my hand right now. I'm like, chef's kiss, and it's so good. There are so many amazing games from 2016. Suze?
Yeah, this was brutal. This was
so hard.
Oh my gosh. And I guess I don't think about games in terms of the years they come out until we do something like this. But yeah, scroll in y'all go to BGG, sort by year published, look at 2016 and just prepare to let your jaw drop. What a year.
Oh my goodness. This was like all the pie.
We definitely could have done a double-sized pie for this episode, but we restrained ourselves. But keep that in mind. I feel compelled to say this because I'm like, there are so many amazing games I had to not put on this list, and This is why we don't do top 10s, Mandy. It's just too hard.
People would be so frustrated. I can't do it. The stress. But we're going to jump into this list that we have because it's just so scrumdiddlyumptious, okay? So here we go. So I'm going to start with mine. Oh, brings back some memories, even though it wasn't a ton of time ago. But Clank, Clankety Clank, please come back. Woo, so good. Clank published by Renegade Games. It's like a dungeon crawl deck builder. I guess that would be like a good kind of combination to explain it. And it's not a hard game, but man, people can really get you by getting out of that dungeon and leaving you in there. I've scored games with very low and everyone's really high because I just got too greedy trying to get those treasures. But Clank is, I would say it's a family level game because I have played it with kids. I mean, not super, super young kids, obviously, but kids that are probably like, can your 9-year-old play Clank, Suzanne, comfortably? Or would you say maybe closer to your 12 or 13-year-old?
No, I think my 9-year-old, but they like games.
They like games. So just something to consider. But anyway, Clank is the original. I love Clank. I'm also a big fan of Clank Legacy, which did come out later. But if you haven't tried Clank, obviously, this would be the one to start with. And it did come out in 2016. So that's Clank.
Amazing. My first slice of pie. Oh, Mandy, take a deep breath. Calm down. Bite your tongue. Automobiles.
No, thank you.
Stop. I know you don't like automobiles,
This is
but
like
I adore
celery.
automobiles.
This is like celery pie. No, thank you.
Stop. It's a bag building racing game, and it's phenomenal. I love it. It's top 50 game for me, in which you're racing around and you're pulling cubes and using special powers on cards that are associated with those cubes. And I know that Mandy doesn't care for it. There are expansion tracks that are better for smaller player counts that I've also really loved. And it came out in 2016, and I will also point out that this was fairly innovative at that time in combining a bag builder with a racing game. And now, flash forward, we also have Cubitos, which is a racing game with kind of a dice pool building that I also love. So there's just something in this space that I love, and Automobiles is a really fun game for me. Mandy feels differently, but I love it, and it was 2016, and it was definitely going in my pie, Mandy, whether you like it or not.
I think I've said enough on automobiles. So if you can agree with what Suzanne has said, you go for automobiles.
Moving along, Mandy.
All right. Next on my list. Well, it's a Vital. Come on. My list is never complete here without a Vital Lacerda game. We got the Portuguese connection. Gotta pump it up. So Vinos Deluxe Edition. Now, I know Vinos was out before there was an original edition.
Yeah, wait a minute.
What? I know. So
okay.
This is a bit of a cheat because it is not the original. It is the deluxe edition, which is the edition that I own. However, this one has the new board, and then if you flip it on the other side, it has the original Vinos board as well. So you've got the two options to play. I mean, it's a game about wine. Not that I'm a huge wine drinker, seriously, but I feel like that's something I should say because it sounds like cool. Let's learn about how to make some wines and get the wines. And anyway, Vinos Deluxe Edition. I don't know. If that didn't make you want to go out and buy it, I don't know what will.
All right. On a different level. All right. Next up for me, one deck dungeon, 1-player solo or 2-player cooperative game. I prefer it solo. Mm-hmm. I love one deck dungeon in which you're rolling dice and trying to dungeon delve, basically. You're going to get these enemies. You're going to open doors. You're going to deal with the enemies. You have to have the right dice. You're rolling and mitigating and building up your character as you go level through the dungeon until you finally reach the final boss. It's a ton of fun. They've expanded it with a lot of new characters and enemies and all that good stuff. There's also an app version, and I'm going to be really honest. I play this physically, but I played more of the app after the app came out because it's so quick and easy, and I have leaned into it because you can build up your character between games. So there's kind of this campaign feel to it that I really super duper love. But one deck dungeon, a great solo game, just so satisfying to roll that handful of dice. And I love all the expansions too. And that was a 2016 game. Go figure.
Yeah, I like that one 2-player personally, or solo on the app. So great choice.
Yeah, sure. Makes sense.
Oh boy, this next one. I feel like I need to get this off the shelf. It's been a while. Millennium Blades. Oh, it's like, I think every time I hear someone describe it, it's a game within a game. It's so meta. That would be accurate. But it's definitely one of those games where you're trying to, build up your cards. And I hate speed, but it just works in this one when you're trying to get the cards in your deck and you're timed and, okay, but I need this one. And then there's a market to buy cards and, oh, I don't know. It's stressful, but I really seem to like it with Millennium Blades. And I think I like the art. I like the way it presents because it's kind of like a little bit of a battle with the cards, but you really got to build up your deck in order to, make things happen. And I think these timed rounds happen a few times throughout the game. It's been a while since I've played it. But the box has so much in it that every game is going to be different and you can always add on. So for me, Millennium Blades, just reminds me when you used to get those cards and open them up, those starter packs
Absolutely.
Of cards for whatever it was you were collecting at that time. That is the feeling, the nostalgic feeling I get from this. So Millennium Blades, so good.
And we've talked about this before, Mandy. I think on paper, Millennium Blades does not sound like the kind of game you would like.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So the fact that you love this game so much really says something about it.
Oh, you're so right.
My next slice for 2016 Game Pie, Mystic Veil. This is from AEG, and it uses their card crafting system, which means the cards are transparent and have different things printed on them. This is a deck builder in which you're trying to fight it out with your opponents, and as you're going, you're collecting points, basically, different kinds of points. As you go, you're going to have cards in a sleeve with the basics, and you're going to be sliding new cards in so that a single card becomes more and more powerful as you play. There are temporary points, there are long-term. Oh my gosh, there's so much going on. But I love the card crafting system in general. And I love what they did in Mystic Veil because it is so satisfying to build up a card. And when you get this mega turn where the cards that you've built up start to fire off together, it's incredibly fun. And Mystic Veil is a great game, shows off the card crafting system. And again, if you prefer not to mess with, it does take a little bit of work, sleeving and unsleeving the cards and things like that. If you prefer not, they've also released a phenomenal app version of it as well. And so 2016, Mystic Veil.
That is a very good one. Excited to see that on your list. Well, I thought I'd end with something just silly and fun, and you're thinking, what? This doesn't seem like something you would like, Mandy. I love it. Carried around in conventions. I've used it in classes. Happy Salmon. It's quick. It's fun. There are a variety of ways you can play it. It's great. And it came out in 2016. Great way to get people together. I really enjoyed this game. I don't know what else to tell you. It makes me happy playing it and talking about it. So there you go.
I don't know if I'd want to play Happy Salmon with you, Mandy, because of your fingernails.
I know. I'd probably take out a knife.
Deadly. Ouch. The last slice of 2016 Game Pie, Tokyo Highway. This is a pathing and dexterity game from Itten Games out of Japan. I think it's the game that really helped them splash on the larger game scene, which makes me so happy because Itten is one of the most creative, interesting publishing houses in the industry worldwide today. Period. I will take no arguments on that at this time. And Tokyo Highway is phenomenal. At first, it seems like it might just be a dexterity game, but once you get into it and you realize that there is a lot of strategy and a lot of planning in going in, how you arrange your paths, where you're putting paths up and putting your posts, and where you're putting your cars, it's incredibly clever. The dexterity I know can kill it for some people, and I get that, but I love it. It's stunning, it's smart, and it's a 2016 game. With the way that year went, Mandy, I shouldn't be surprised that all these games I love came out that year. Go figure.
Absolutely. So what a list. And let me tell you, we could have gone on and on. There were just so many good ones. But we figured, let's start here. And if people are enjoying that one, maybe we can revisit another time.
We will wrap the episode with that Game Pie. So with the podcast ending, we definitely would love to do a nice big round of Q&A in one of our last episodes. So we're asking you for questions this time. Like, let us know if there's anything you wanted to ask about the show, about games that we like. Now's the time to send them in. We're going to be specifically collecting them so that we can do a massive, fun mailbag segment in a future episode. You can reach me at Suzanne@dicetower.com.
And hey, if there's a song that I have not sung and you're like, Mandy, we want to hear a little snippet of something, now is the time to ask, because you might not be hearing these vocal stylings for some time. You can send me an email at Mandy, that's Mandy with an I, at dicetower.com.
Truly, folks, now more than ever, thank you so much for being here with us and being part of our extended gaming family. And we appreciate you so much. And all of the messages, I mean, no lie, I'm not going to pretend, they're incredibly heartwarming.
Absolutely.
And they're incredibly flattering and uplifting. And we appreciate them now more than ever. So thank you for everyone who's reached out and said something positive about the show or about Mandy and I being on the Dice Tower. It means a lot to us. So thank you so much. Next episode, 742, Tom and Eric are going to be back, and they're going to be looking back at the wild and wacky year that has been 2021. That'll be quite the conversation. I look forward to that one.
When you said that, all I could think of is, and I don't know, might be old here, Saturday Night Live, two wild and crazy guys.
Yeah, you are old, baby. So until next time, I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
And I'm Mandy Hutchinson.
And you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This podcast is sponsored by listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. And speaking of support, the Jack Vassal Memorial Fund is an organization dedicated to helping gamers in need. Learn more about the fund's mission and how you can help at jackvassal.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom, Suzanne, Mandy, and Eric with assistance from Roy Canaday and Rob Searing. Our theme is composed by Timothy Pinkham and arranged by Matt Bellier. Let us know what you think of the show by posting to the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com, following the Dice Tower on Twitter, or by emailing us at podcast@dicetower.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming. All right, everybody, it's that time again for Two Truths and a Lie, and I'll go first and reveal mine from last episode. I enjoy Jell-O pudding, I enjoy Jell-O gelatin, and I enjoy Jell-O pie filling. If you said I enjoy Jell-O pie filling was the lie, you would be correct. It's not that it's bad, it's just I make better pie fillings. So, yeah. So that's why that one made the list. I know, it was silly, but I had to do it.
Yeah, I forgot, actually, that you'd done that weird one last episode.
I was having a Jell-O craving. I think that's why.
Yeah, so weird. Last episode, I said for Thanksgiving, I made roast potatoes, I made mashed potatoes, and I made scalloped potatoes. And the lie is that I made scalloped potatoes. But yes, we make multiple potato dishes at the holidays in this household. I don't know why.
All of those sound amazing. All right, new for this episode, here we go. And again, we're going to keep with this food theme. I'm honestly very hungry. So for Christmas, I will be eating macaroni pie, I will be eating turkey, and I will be eating oxtail. So now, I know, we'll talk about it when I do the reveal.
Alrighty. And for me this episode, I said I own Patchwork, I own Patchwork Christmas, and I own Patchwork Halloween.
Oh, definitely more board game appropriate. Good luck, everybody.